Okay, if we can get people to settle in, we'll get started. Information that'll stay around for afterwards too to follow up. Okay, everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Zach Sherbo. I'm the Public Health Manager for Lincoln County. I'm currently the Public Information Officer for this incident. Thank you, Mrs. Sherdo, for hosting in Troy's school district. So a few housekeeping things. As you kind of saw walking in, the way that we're going to do things, just so that I'll serve as the moderator for this. We've got the note cards for any questions. We'll have at least Vanessa, maybe some other help kind of running around too as we get going. If things come up that you like to ask, we ask that you do it that way, so that way I can go to some of the support crew and that I've got here with me to best respond to those questions, okay? I want to say that this is our first community meeting of probably many around this disaster. Again, thanks for coming here. Want to also recognize the Red Cross. For those of you that aren't aware, we've got currently a shelter set up at the Memorial Center in Libby. The best place to find updates and information right now, factual information is going to be coming from the Health Department's Facebook page. Okay? Health Department Facebook page, that's the best place to find information right now. Should that change, we've got and it'll go into it more, but we've got an incident management team, Tech 3 coming in to help support things on our end, starting tomorrow at 8 a.m. So working with them, naturally some things may evolve and change just again as we continue to manage this incident. We're going to, I'm not going to try and take too much time so that we can get into the heart of this. We'll be here and stick around and continue to answer questions as long as they come up. Feel free to come and go as you like as things go. Also, if you're online on Zoom, I've got Sarah to moderate any questions there. So if you just throw those in the chat, please. The Emergency Operations Center, we've got people there working the phones. Want to share that information? Right there. The other, if you came in this, I think if you came in the doors with some of that information right now, one of the, well, with the scale of the disaster that we're looking at, there's a lot of information to gather. So, if you saw the one flyer with the QR code, that's for the Montana DES to take and gather information. We on the county level have also set up the LC planning at libby.org to gather any property damage, pictures, information, and that as well. So that's out there. Okay, I'm going to jump into things here. So first, Boyd White, our incident commander and county emergency manager, is going to give you kind of an overview update of things as they are today.
Hi, I'm Boyd White. Some of you may know me. I'm a local Lincoln County resident for my lifetime here, and moved into Office of Emergency Management just short of 2 years ago from the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. You're going to kind of see us bouncing around here between speakers as we cover different talking points. First, I'm just going to address the partners that are here from other agencies that are helping us out, kind of help you understand the magnitude of this and who all the role players are that are involved in trying to stabilize the community and then begin the rebuilding process. First of all, I'd like to thank all of our volunteers that have been out. We've had a lot of volunteers at the sandbagging sites, preparing sandbags for those people that need so that they don't have to themselves, and speeding up the process of getting those resources out to those people that need those sandbags for protecting the property. David Thompson Search and Rescue has been out helping us. Flathead County Search and Rescue sent resources over along with the boat to aid in case we have any emergency rescues by water. Montana DES has been on scene almost immediately after, and that's disaster emergency services. So they're kind of like my big brother. You have the emergency management county level, disaster emergency services state level, and then FEMA's your national level in that chain. Red Cross has been here shortly after they reached out once this started offering to put shelter in place, provide water, things like that. The Montana Sheriff's Mutual Aid has been instrumental in bringing in resources to help us manage this event. It's a much larger event than would normally be managed by just local resources. Flathead, Missoula, Gallatin, and Lewis Park counties all sent over members of their disaster emergency services personnel in order to help us kind of get this under control. Flathead County Sheriff himself has been here. DNRC has resources embedded at the EOC, along with the Army Corps, and Thompson Contracting and Noble have been working with our road crews to help try to save our bridges and stabilize our roads. Libby Volunteer Fire Department and Troy Volunteer Fire Department have both had personnel. And so I'd like to extend gratitude to them and thank them for all their work. And now I'm going to pass this off to TJ Boswell to give you kind of an update on Troy cities.
Hello everyone, thank you for showing up in person and online. Really quick, I'm going to go through kind of our city utilities and go through kind of some information on Lake Creek Dam that I know of, and then Callahan Creek, Corps of Engineers support there. Troy utilities are doing really well. Our water system is well fed by wells, so there was no flooding in any areas of our wells, so our water is still in good condition. Our water department's going to just run a bacteria test tomorrow just to verify that. It's a pretty standard test. They send that off just to test for bacteria, and then if we have to chlorinate the water, then we can do that through our system. Our sewer system's working as designed. We had one lift station that was impeded by water. Our crews mobilized at 5 a.m. on Thursday morning and got that structure protected to where there wasn't any kind of sewage leak or anything like that. So we're relatively confident that we didn't have anything escape our lift station, and that's still protected for upcoming weather. And that's in one of the lower areas. The other two lift stations that we have are pretty good elevation, and there's no flooding around those areas at all. Troy's electrical system held up really good. No issues on that, and I don't think we had an outage that I heard of from on our Troy power system. So our system is had a lot of good upgrades over the last few years to minimize those outages. Lake Creek Dam, Troy Power does maintenance and service the dam for Northern Lights. Northern Lights does own that dam. And our crews were up there manning the dam for, I think, Wednesday night until Friday morning, making sure the water didn't overflow. The dam was opened all the way up and everything was releasing that it could. The dam withheld everything. There was no structural damage observed. The dam does have seismic sensors in there, so if anything was, anything, ground movement or anything else like that, it would have picked up. The dam has water monitoring for flow, so that way Northern Lights can tell what the flow levels are going into the dam and out of the dam. And it got close to the top, but didn't go over, so everything was controlled. I think water started to recede, I think about Thursday, Friday night, or Friday morning, late Thursday night. Callahan Creek, we engaged the Corps of Engineers on getting some emergency levees put in place and the St. Regis Hall Road repaired. The Corps of Engineers mobilized a team. I met with them, with Dusty Welch and myself this morning, right before the meeting with one of the Corps of Engineer reps that are on site. We're gonna have a follow-on meeting tomorrow morning to come up with a plan for getting Callahan Creek, some levees extended down there in the St. Regis Road, repaired and put back into service. Currently, the plan is, and this is a very fluid plan depending on the team that shows up and what their site assessment is, but right now, what they are planning on doing is working on the south bank of the Callahan Creek, because that channel kind of shifted over to that side and eroded that bank pretty bad. And they're gonna start extending that levee from the existing levee all the way down to the train tracks. And then more than likely, they're gonna go over to the north side, which is the disc golf side of it, Callahan Park, do that levee extension and or possibly jump up to the St. Regis Road to be able to start doing that repair, depending on resources and contractor availability. Those activities may go in parallel or one at a time, but as that plan develops, I'll let everybody know with the Facebook page on the city's website. So the Corps of Engineers has asked that if you're not immediately working in that area or part of that project, is to stay away from it. Callahan Creek Park, the museum, that area from the highway down to the tracks and out to the old Hall Road is closed off to the public due to the nature of the work that's going on. So, there are barricades in place. If you see barricades, please don't go around them. They're up for a reason, to keep people out. There's plenty of people that are going around those barricades and putting themselves in danger. Our emergency services are stretched pretty thin right now. We don't need to stretch them out anymore by having to go in and somebody falling into the water because a bank eroded out underneath. The city of Troy does have a potable water fill station down in Roosevelt Park that is available to the public during business hours. That is locked up during after hours just because of the security of it, and it is attached to our drinking water system. If anybody does need potable water, they can contact City Hall or show up down there and get the key and go down and fill up whatever they need. So the city of Troy is glad to help out with that. I think that's pretty much the Troy update for now, so.
I got another shot. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to give everybody a little bit of a briefing on how these events played out, how we first became aware of them, things we tried to do prior to monitor this. So, National Weather Service have been pushing out alerts, that we were looking at some pretty heavy rains, warm weather, and some snow impacts in the mountains. But generally, the information was that we were going to probably experience some flooding, but it wasn't. It was, what I was getting from them was not nearly as severe as it ended up being. We're expecting streams to rise, crest over some roads, see some low-lying areas, receiving water, probably going to see some stuff in basements. And so we're pushing information out on Facebook page and things like that in order to make sure that information was available. And then also I was, sending out notifications to my partners that I cooperate with, fire departments, road crews, the administrators for the county and stuff, just so that they would be aware that we did have this event coming in. This was at least the second, maybe the third time that we had a flood warning in Lincoln County this year. The other events turned out to be absolutely nothing. I mean, we had one or two residences that had a little bit of water intake in basements where they had some low-lying areas around the basement. So we hadn't seen much prior to that. We started monitoring streams as the weather event moved in. I had resources over here looking at your guys' bigger streams. We had resources in Lincoln County, and they were watching up in the north end too. And then as this event initially was forecasted to be more south of Lincoln County, down to Mineral County area, but as the days went by, it just kept creeping farther north. And pretty soon I'm getting calls from the Weather Service saying, it looks like you guys are going to be part of the impacted area. So we watched pretty closely. Streams were gradually coming up, but nothing really extreme. I was out checking streams as late as 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. The streams were well within the banks, and nothing looked too concerning. I went to bed at 9. I got woke up at 10:30 with the first stream cresting its bank out on Lower Granite, south of Libby. So I got up, drove out there, and we had a pretty sizable breach of the stream bed by Granite Creek, Cherry Creek, and it was running down the road towards some residences. So I started mobilizing crews for sandbags, barricades, and then we started with the sheriff's office help checking on the residences, and things were staying pretty manageable. Streams would come up a little bit. We had some low-level flooding, but not a lot going on. We went to bed back to home about 3 o'clock in the morning. Laid down for just a little bit, got a call from the sheriff's office that the streams had risen significantly in that last hour and a half. So we came back out, set up more barricades. I reached out to the road crew over here in Troy, and we started checking streams, and that's kind of when the storm hit. That's when things started falling apart. We started losing bridges, we started losing roads. The streams continued to rise. The initial forecast for the streams to peak was between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, but I really don't think they peaked until probably 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and they continued at peak for hours. And this infrastructure just can't take that kind of use. They're telling me that this is the 3rd highest precipitation amount that was ever documented in Lincoln County. So, pretty significant. And that's when we kind of started calling resources, flathead sent over people, and it was just a matter of trying to keep the public from getting into areas that would be negative to their health. We nearly lost one person over in Libby when one of the first bridges washed out. It was still dark. They didn't see the washout, drove into it, but they managed to get out, the truck was swept away. So we're pretty fortunate that we didn't lose anybody. So we can be thankful for that, but we're looking at right now about 10 bridges, I think, that are missing or damaged, and several roads. So it's been we're still doing ongoing assessments. It's going to be a while before we know exactly everything that's damaged. We're also working to try to repair some of those things that can be repaired and get them back into service. Emergency declarations have been made at the city, the county, the state level, and they're working on a declaration at the federal level. And that comes from basically the estimates of our damage. We have to reach a certain, I think it's $2 million, but we're going to reach that pretty easily. We're probably going to be in the tens of millions of dollars from this. One of the, just kind of wanted to touch on our public notification system, the Code Red system. If you guys weren't aware, Code Red is our primary notification system that we use when we have emergencies within the community. You have to physically go online and sign up for that, and then you can receive notifications via email and phone. That system got hacked in mid-November, and it got disabled for a brief time. They had to move all of the people who had signed up and all of our information into a backup system that they were already working on. It took a period of time for them to get all that information adjusted over, and then we had to get re-signed up back in. We had to get our dispatchers retrained and kind of get everything back into a flowing mode. And it hasn't been the smoothest process. I think they were slow, a lot of it, but it's been a lot slower than I would have liked it to be. But we are back up and running. And that being said, also we lost a chunk of our constituents that signed up. Anybody that signed up after March 31st of this year, your information was no longer in the system. So if you signed up after that point, you need to go back in and sign up. And the link for that is available on the Lincoln County website on the main page at the bottom. It's available on the EMA page on Facebook. And if you have any questions about it, you can also call Lincoln County Sheriff's Office and they can help you get signed up. So we do have a backup and running. We also have iPause, which if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like sending out an Amber Alert. You get that over your phone, and we can use that system as well to notify people. We only ended up sending out, we sent out some code reds in areas that we knew were affected, particularly with areas that we knew were flooding residential areas. We issued one over in Libby based off of the lower containment reservoir off the dam. We had some information on it, and you guys may have heard, it kind of went out in the middle of the night. There were some people that were disgruntled by that. But the reason that it went out in the middle of the night was that was when we got the information. And that's how we're trying to push out the information that we have. As soon as we receive information in on something, we evaluate that information, we decide how it affects the public, and we get that information out as quickly as possible. So we got that information really, really late in the day, 8 o'clock at night. We had to sit down, evaluate it, call the stakeholders in, and we pushed it out. I know some people were questioning that, but that's why. Because when it comes in, then we get it out. So sometimes it's not always convenient. But that's been our goal, is transparency, trying to keep people notified, and to do the best job we can for you guys. So, like I said, if you're not sure about your code red, or even if you signed up before, you still have to go in and create a new account if you want to change your information. But your old information's in there. But if you want to change it, you have to create a new account for that code red system. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to Sheriff Short.
All right, thank you, everybody. I think everybody in the room probably knows who I am. Sheriff Darren Short, our county sheriff. I'm just going to give you a quick update on the transportation and infrastructure status. So, starting early, as soon as the water started to recede and things, we got out of panic mode on the flooding situation. A team of bridge inspectors from the Montana Department of Transportation came over, and all day Friday, we had one team of bridge inspectors who were working. They started on the east end of the county and worked their way into Libby, identified as many concerning bridges as they could, and they started working their way through doing bridge inspections. Yesterday, we had two teams of bridge inspectors from the Montana Department of Transportation, and one team came over to the Troy area. They hit almost all of the bridges. Well, they have hit pretty much every bridge that's open in the county now. So if a bridge is open to traffic in the county, it has been inspected. It's been inspected and approved by this team of Montana Department of Transportation bridge inspectors. So please don't have any concerns. If traffic's flowing over a bridge, it's been checked and inspected. They did come up and inspect the 17-mile bridge, which still happens to be closed. They inspected it and approved that bridge, but there is a sinkhole on the Highway 508 side of the 17-mile bridge. They're going to work on that tomorrow and get that filled in and get that traffic back to the 17-mile bridge. Any of these bridges that are closed are probably going to remain closed for some time. Like they talked about, this is not a short-term incident. Unfortunately, the cost to repair all these bridges is probably going to be in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's part of the key of having the incident management team here. Having the team helps us open up additional funding through the state emergency fund as well as FEMA emergency funds. So it's going to be an active and ongoing incident. The team that's coming in tomorrow or today and will transition into taking over the incident tomorrow is a hand-picked team from Western Montana that has a lot of experience in flooding situations. Some of the people that are on the team that are coming to help us manage our incident were on the Red Lodge flood last year. So they have a lot of experience both with the flooding situation itself, bridges, roadway destruction, as well as the Montana Department of Emergency Services and FEMA funding. So they're going to help us with all of that paperwork and try and get us into moving on the right path so that we can recover from this economically. Public safety concerns. I'm going to run through some slides here just to kind of show you some of the damages that happened in the Troy area. So this is the damage that happened at Ross Creek. As you can see, there was a significant amount of erosion, a significant amount of water and flooding. So we had to wait until the water receded before we could start to assess a lot of these damages. Lake Creek Chase Cutoff. But like I said, even the bridges that are currently closed have been inspected, and the bridge structures themselves have been approved. Most of the damage that we found has been to the abutments and the levees and dikes that protect these bridges. That's clear. So as we can get crews in, as we can get the funding, we're going to try to get all of these bridges reopened as quickly as possible. One of the problems is ownership. Some of the bridges are owned by the Montana Department of Transportation, some are owned by the county, some are owned by the Forest Service. So each individual that owns a bridge has to come up with funding to fix that bridge. These are into some of the living area bridges, but before we get into that, I want to just go into some of the public safety concerns. As you can see, a lot of these bridges, a lot of these abutments that washed out, a lot of these roadways that washed out, the asphalt stays intact. The asphalt stays intact and overhangs the washouts. And that is one of the biggest concerns. Try to stay away from any of these damaged areas, any of the roadways that have washouts, any of the bridges that abutments that have been washed out, because you don't know what you're walking on. I mean, there could be a washout underneath and a sinkhole, and you could fall through the asphalt, either into the stream or into a who knows how deep hole. So please stay away from that. Like TJ said, if there's a barricade in place, please respect the barricades. The barricade's either there for public safety, or it's there because there's a crew working in there, and they don't want to have to look out for somebody behind their truck, behind their excavator, behind a heavy piece of equipment that's trying to get these things open as quickly as they can. So, we didn't talk a lot about it, but we just got a brief this morning from the National Weather Service. We've had a couple of fortunate days with very little rain. That's going to end. I don't think we're going to see the amount of rain that we've seen, the rising water levels to the extent that we've seen. But the concerning thing is, with all of this saturation, everything that's happened to soften the ground, we're supposed to get they're looking to have a severe weather or a wind event on Wednesday. So if you have any concerns about trees that are on your property, trees that could fall and damage buildings or houses or anything like that, please reach out to the incident command, to the EOC. They're going to have numbers for some of the local contractors who can remove those hazard trees. So please be aware of your surroundings. Public safety is number one in this thing. We don't want to see anybody hurt. We don't want to see anybody killed. With that, I think we're going to go to questions. Oh, Jesse or something? Oh, yeah. Jesse didn't get a chance to talk. So, Jesse Hay.
Thank you. So, Jesse Hay, for those of you who don't know me, I wear a few hats around here. Director of Planning and Floodplain Administrator for Lincoln County, City of Troy, and the town of Eureka. I'm also on the City Council here in Troy. So I've been pretty intimately involved with the situation. Haven't gotten much sleep, as I know none of us have for a few days. I've been wearing wet boots since Thursday morning. I know I was keeping an eye on it pretty close Wednesday evening. I think I finally drifted off to sleep about midnight. We had gotten, I think, about 1.5 inches of rain in the previous hours to that. When I finally dozed off a little bit, was back up around the 3 o'clock hour, something like that. And the gauge up at the airport said we had gotten another 1.5 inches between midnight and I think about 4 in the morning. At which point, the water was rising. I know Mayor Boswell was not happy to get a call from me at that hour of the morning, but living where we do, or up till flood, right there behind the laundromat, we were taking on water, probably one of the first properties in the city to be taking on water, and it came up quick. By the time I was like, oh gosh, it's coming in the yard, from then to getting vehicles out of the yard, it was, over my knees deep. So as soon as I got the cars out of there, helped my neighbor get hers, cars out as well. I mobilized, called Commissioner Hammonds, and we were leading at first step, checking on the bridges, and of course making sure that keeping an eye on those. A couple of notes here. I wanted to relay some info. Of course, like Sheriff Short mentioned about the weather update. I think the Weather Service said it would be potentially 1 to 2 inches. Monday, Tuesday in the valleys, 2 to 3 inches in the mountains, which won't be nearly as much as we got, but the ground is still saturated. And something to be aware of, a lot of these streams have meandered, they've changed. We don't know where the water might go. So definitely I would, can't put our guard down quite yet. And yeah, people, just go through my notes here, you guys touched on the bridges. Yeah, the Keeler Bridge, I know TJ Welch and I, first thing, after we were checking out the bridges here, he picked me up, we went to check that Chase Cutoff Bridge, because that's a known point of concern. And that bridge was fine at the time, this was, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning, we then went and checked the bridge over Keeler Creek, Lake Creek Road. We went across the bridge, went to check the neighborhood down there at Tailback Lane. We weren't there for maybe 5-10 minutes. We went to turn around and go back over the bridge, and at that point, it started to erode out. And as we were standing there within a minute or two, the whole thing just blew out. So fortunately, we were able to take the lower Stanley cutoff, get to the Mine Road. Camp Creek Bridge was holding, so that was real fortunate. So I know DJ and the guys and I think Noble is improving that road right now.
Yes, it's done now, we've got it improved and gravelled and in good shape.
Okay, so that road's getting improved, so those folks have the road that hopefully will be maintained and plowed more easily this winter. That bridge, as pictures should be on there, it's going to take a while to repair. And on that one, there was a levy, a Corps of Engineers levy, that was recently certified, I believe, and that blew out. And then that took out the approach. Yeah, so the section that's remaining, those are 2 concrete abutments with bridge decking, and the section that blew out was earthen material. So that levee, or the dike there, you see it blew out, and the water just went right through there. And it happened quick, which is quite impressive. I know there was a few questions I heard, concerns about the lift station. I don't know if you touched on that in Troy here. Where we live here in Troy, or up until the flood, we're probably the closest people to the lift station. Never at any point did we smell any sewage or were concerned about that. And according to the public works, the lift station was operating properly. There's various alarms. If the fluid gets too high in there, different alarms will trigger, and the upper alarms never trigger. So the lift station was working properly, continues to work properly. There was never any contamination. What other things here? So starting tomorrow, the state is sending a whole crew of, well, they're on their way right now from the DNRC floodplain program, and they're going to be assisting me in setting up teams to start going through property by property and doing substantial damage assessments. So want to make sure people aren't alarmed when people in some vests start coming door to door. There will be some, people from Helena there and some other floodplain administrators from around the state come to help. But we'll have locals with every team. And the important thing now is we start figuring out how much damage, estimating the damage to people's homes. So by the end of next week, get with the engineers who have been assessing the bridges. We'll take those numbers, send it to the federal government, and then that'll help them determine if they're going to declare a federal emergency. At that point, that'll determine what, if any, aid might be available at the federal level to us locally here. From what I understand, nobody in the city limits of Troy has a flood insurance policy through the through the flood insurance program. This is a time, unfortunately, where a lot of people find out that their homeowner's insurance doesn't cover flood damage. That's typically the case. I'm not saying that's always the case, but typically flood is a specific policy. And so it's unsure at this point what aid will be available, if any, to people. One thing that's commonly available are loans through the Small Business Administration, which are low interest loans through the government to help people repair their home and recover. And yeah, I just also want to reiterate about the work that that the Corps of Engineers is gonna come in and do on the southeast side of Callahan, is that I think we should feel real grateful for the assistance. Just the engineering and permitting and that kind of stuff can cost easy 6 figures. So for them to already be mobilizing in here is pretty great, because certainly coming out of the Seattle office, they've got a huge mess over there as well. So that's something that Mayor Boswell and I, we were on the phone with those guys Thursday afternoon, trying to get that conversation going and make the case for help here in Troy. So hopefully, armoring that bank can help keep that water from, blowing back to that whole side of Troy. And we did see somebody had some great drone footage that the water did reach Lake Creek. So backflowed all the way from along the tracks there, from Callahan all the way to Lake Creek. So with that, I think that's all the info that I have. I'll hand it back over to Zach.
I'll use this time, if any questions have come up, raise your hand. Vanessa, if you'd help out, running around with milk carts.
So really quick, when I was talking about safety and undercuts, this is the bridge that I drove to this morning. I've been to it a couple times now. I didn't realize that undercut was there. Drove all the way up to the bridge to put some ribbon up to keep people out. As I started to back up, I looked in my mirror and noticed that washout. Walked back to it, saw the undercut. Luckily, I was on the opposite side of the road when I drove through. But that's how easily this can happen. I mean, even us who are aware of the dangers and the damage, I drove right through it. Didn't even see it. So I could have ended up down in that culvert. So please be aware, the shoulders of all these roads are very soft. There's a lot of washouts. There's a lot of erosion areas that you don't even see when you're driving by. So just be aware of that. All the highways have been inspected. Like I said, all of the bridges that are currently open to traffic, these inspections have been done. So we've tried to find all the washout areas, but just be careful.
Hello everyone, we had one question about, in the unlikely event of a catastrophic dam failure, what's the warning the people of Troy will get in regards to Lake Creek Dam? So first couple things to cover, the dam goes through yearly certification processes to make sure that it's structurally sound, and the Troy Power Department are certified operators for that dam, so they're trained to recognize any kind of failures or situations that may cause a catastrophic event up there. Northern Lights does have in place an emergency action plan to notify residents if that dam is going to either overflow or fail. With the monitoring systems that I talked about in place, the seismic, the amount of water that's flowing through the dam or collecting behind the dam is all indicators that they use to make that determination. And if the operators do suspect that an event is going to happen, is they notify Northern Lights. Northern Lights notifies the Sheriff's Department to start the evacuation process downstream of the dam out to a certain point of what is projected for that flooding. It's probably looked very similar to the map of the Flower Creek that Lady put out, something like that. I don't have that data available. We'll see if we can get it and update that on our Facebook page. But then the Sheriff's Department would notify Troy Police Department to help the evacuation of those residents that are going to be impacted if that structure would fail.
Okay, we got just a few questions here. Some of them actually just recently answered about damage to your homes. And like you said, your insurance may cover it, but probably won't. but there will be an attempt to collect that information on damaged residences, potentially some assistance in the future, but that's unknown. Somebody asked, where is the responsibility for the levee failure come into place? It's Army Corps of Engineers does the inspections and stuff. I believe that they're going to be taking the responsibility of replacing that levee and putting it back in place. But as far as responsibility for the failure, Mother Nature is, well, she's strong, right? And these floods were unprecedented, and it's some of these bridges have been here and survived many other floods, and they didn't survive them. So it's just an act of God. Somebody asked about on social media, says Lake Creek Bridge is compromised, and that they believe we were talking about the Keeler Creek Bridge on Lake Creek. That's absolutely correct. It is Keeler Creek on the Lake Creek Road that has the compromising issues. Our plans to address the upcoming storms, as Sheriff Short reiterated, we have this big storm coming up that could have some potential issues as far as trees down, which we know could lead to power outages. So be prepared for that. We have a prediction for some fairly heavy rains, not like we had, but because of our stream beds and their compromised issues, we could see some renewed surges of water in places that shouldn't be. If you had that experience, I would encourage trying to do some sandbagging ahead of time, where you might be able to drag that water back into a safe place, and get to those sites that have the sand and sitting bags to be able to do that. And then somebody else asked about what they can do to help. Right now, we haven't had a lot of requests for help, very little. But one of the big things you can do is help with sandbagging. Go down there, sandbag, have them ready for the parties that are going to need them to save them time, save them energy, and help out. That's probably the biggest number one thing that I can think of off the top of my head that could be a help to your community. What's the number for emergency alerts? There's not a number. You can go online and sign up for that. If you don't have that ability to go online, I know the administrative assistant with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office has helped a lot of people get signed up in code red. I believe she's still offering that service. Somebody asked about addressing the landslides on the Yak Hill. It's going to be more of a Montana Department of Transportation issue, and I can't speak to that for them. And another question was, any plans to redo the train bridge? I'm assuming if we're talking about anything that's Burlington Northern, that's going to be dead, unless there's something I'm missing within that question. I know Burlington Northern, during this event, had a crew over here, both inspecting their bridges as they withstood the storm, removing debris from the pylons and stuff to protect their bridges. They were actively working during this event to protect the structures that they have in place.
All right, Boyd addressed it. The question is, how are people with landlines notified? Through the code red system. If people aren't signed up with code red, Lincoln County Dispatch will go through the affected area and try to pick out all of the landline phone numbers that they have within the system, and they will try to make phone calls as well. But code red is the key. If you can get signed up for it, if you're not signed up for it, please reach out to Lincoln County Sheriff's Office Dispatch, and they will help you through the process to get signed up for code red. Has the Roosevelt Bridge and Kootenai River Road rock slides been assessed? All of the areas that are prone to rock slides and mudslides are being closely watched. That includes the Yak, the Kootenai River, farther up the Yak across from the Yak Falls is known to slide. So all of those areas are being closely watched, just like we're watching all the bridges and all the roadways. For both Libby and Troy, what was the highest turbidity reading? Troy did not have any change in turbidity, I doubt, because it's all well water. So the wells in Troy were not affected at all by this rain event. Libby, I can't tell you the highest turbidity, but it was high enough to trigger a boil order for the Libby municipal water supply. When is the boil order going to be lifted? They're expecting the boil order to at least go for another week. A week from yesterday is what they said, depending on the latest rain event. Libby's municipal water supply is all surface water, comes out of the reservoirs. So anytime we have a large rain event, the turbidity goes up. Libby municipal is used to boil orders every spring. So it's hard to see how long it's going to go.
Okay, I'll add a few other things. Sandbank sites in the Troy area that are open. Fill your own bags right now. There will be signs out there to please stack the bags that you don't use for others to take. So at the county shop, Angel Island Fire Department, and Burnt Dutch in the Yak. Really just reiterating safety, public safety, and continuing to check on each other, check on your neighbors, okay? We're definitely not out of this by any means. Mayor Boswell, did you have anything else?
Just one other thing that Clay, he's our lead, he's our manager for our power company. He has the emergency action plan up there. We're gonna request Northern Lights to see if we can't share that plan with the public. It is their plan, so we need to get permission before we share that. And it actually shows the floodplain of if the dam catastrophically fails. And there's 5 to 6 residents that would be directly affected by that are closest to Lake Craig's channel of water there. For the most part, the channel is going to manage that water coming out of the reservoir. So our guys are going to be up there starting today, preparing for the rain event, making sure the screen is clear of debris. As you can see in all the pictures, the amount of debris that's being washed down into these channels also washes down into the reservoir and to the dam, so they got to make sure that the spill gates stay open, they're clear of debris so that water can flow at its maximum amount there. So, thank you.
So since I came to this picture, this is the Libby Creek Bridge on Farm to Market Road outside of Libby. So you can see the bridge where the washout happened of the abutment. So the circle is the pickup that went into the abutment when it failed. So the power of the water took the full-size crew cab pickup all the way from that bridge to here. Luckily, before it got swept away, the young man that was driving this pickup was able to kick the sunroof out, got out of it, and was able to climb up the bank.
So I thought I'd just give everybody a little bit more information about our floodplain program here in Lincoln County. We do participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, which any participating communities, Libby, Troy, Eureka, Lincoln County, basically, back in the 60s when insurance companies said, we're pulling out, we're not insuring for flood anymore, government stepped in, set up this program, and they created a set of standards that if communities enforce these standards, ensuring people if they're building in the floodplain, they're doing it correctly, that they'll subsidize this insurance. So I want to make people aware that we participate in this program. As part of that, we have a set of maps. They're the flood insurance rate maps firms. And in Lincoln County, these maps were last updated in 1980. And they are paper maps in some drawers at the courthouse. If anybody is interested in looking at those, get a hold of the Lincoln County Planning Department. You can come down and check out those maps. When I got in my current role 3.5 years ago, one of the first things I started doing was trying to initiate an update to those maps, which would be digitized, and then you could look at them online. The maps from 1980, they're not the best accuracy. They estimated the best they could at the time with the data they had. Now we have a lot better data, and things move around a lot. Any of these streams in soft ground, Lake Creek, the lower part of Callahan, Granite Creek, Libby Creek, they meander, they change. And so, so 3.5 years ago, started trying to get this process to get it updated. It's a very costly process. We have 526 miles of mapped waterway in Lincoln County. And so here, we kind of got pushed back a year after the Red Lodge, Yellowstone flooding. But we finally did get that funding from FEMA. And so the state TNRC is leading that effort. It's, I think, about a 5-year process. And hopefully we'll start getting some usable data in the next year from that project. The cost of this will be several $1 million, I think $5 to $6 million. Fortunately, they haven't gotten too far into it yet because things have changed. And we have a lot of really great data. Love to thank the folks who are flying drones and putting that information on the internet. That will be really great data for these new maps, so we can see where the extent of the high water was and be able to see the new channels that have been created. And so anyhow, I just want to make sure people are aware of floodplain program. Call the Lincoln County Planning Department if you want to know, hey, how close am I to the floodplain? During my day job, I spend a lot of time trying to convince people, don't build in floodplain. And if you do, there's a permitting process for that, and for good reason, obviously. Even things you don't think about, water's coming up, and once you got your big propane tank there, at some point it's going to float. And where's it going to go? So certain things, okay, well, let's make sure it's anchored down. So what level of anchoring do we need, right? And so the Lincoln County flood hazard regulations spell out a lot of good information as far as things you might not even think about. Okay, well, even a fence, well, it can collect debris, create a log jam or an ice jam, and create bigger problems. So again, I just want to make sure people are aware of. We have this program. We're trying to, identify the floodplain as best as we can. It's not a perfect science, so we're providing mitigation and then the recovery efforts. Which, like I said, at this point, I'll be organizing teams with the state to start going out and going door to door and trying to see what shape everybody's in, and hopefully get a better idea of what that's all going to cost, and hopefully get some money to help folks out.
Okay, I'll go last call for any questions. Vanessa, if you're still available, if anyone has anything. If you've got any no codes. Oh, okay. Then also, a heads up here again, very thankful for our Red Cross responders that are on scene with us as well. They've got cleanup supplies like shovels, rakes, mops, and work gloves. All available at the shelter. Again, that's a Libby Memorial Event Center. Plus, they also have water as well, and all are free. We'll take final questions here. Wrap things up. Oh, dumping garbage. The landfill will waive fees for any flood damage debris.
Real quick, Jesse touched on how much a creek channel or a stream channel could change. This is the Farm to Market Road, Libby Creek Bridge, and the bridge is actually intact. All of the water that flowed through Libby Creek used to flow under that bridge. So what happened was we cut a new channel and completely washed out the abutment. Everything to the right that's gone used to be filled and roofed up.
Crazy.
So I had a question here about the Callahan Creek Bridge, and that's going to be, so anything that's on Highway 2 is Montana Department of Transportation, and those questions are best answered by them. What I can tell you is, they had their engineers on site almost immediately. As soon as the water went down, we had engineers here, and they began checking bridges. They checked their bridges primarily first, and if there was any type of issues with them, then they would have addressed those. But we have not received any reports of any issues with any of the Highway 2 bridges. There's some really minor stuff out there at Living Creek that they believe is very easily fixable, but I haven't heard of anything with any of the other bridges. And that's the only information I have with the bridges that are along Highway 2. I did see a lady here with her hand up. Yeah, you.
Well, I had a question about the contact information for the U.S. Forest Service person that we have a bridge, that's our only ingress and egress, and it's over a bridge that is on Forest Service land, and it's compromised.
I do remember seeing that question. Somehow I must have missed it. Maybe got stuck one of the other question cards there. They are working on their bridges. That's up to them. I can't really answer for them. I know they have several bridges out.
The contact person, I called the superintendent's office and you can't get through, so.
That's going to be, they may not be in the office today. They may have people out in the field, but that's going to be their plan.
So you'll probably have to contact them tomorrow with the supervisor's office opens again. I know they have people, like you said, they have people in the field trying to assess Forest Service roads, Forest Service bridges as we speak. But I would guess that the office person won't know that. So I would call first thing tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll wrap things up. I'm sure everybody will hang out here for a little bit if you want to catch someone individually. Thanks for coming. Stay safe, check on each other. Again, stay aware of the incoming weather as well. Thanks for being here.